So obviously this is going to be a My Hero video. I have out my Hero figurines. I brought out a. This is actually the first time I've worn this new My Hero shirt that I got. Um, and yeah, this is obviously going to be a review of the new My Hero Academia movie, World Heroes Mission. Okay, yeah, it's a very interesting setup for the entire movie. Um, I'm gonna put this as let's take Overhaul and take it to the nth degree. Um, okay, so the basic plot of the movie is there is this terrorist organization that are called Human Rise, blah blah blah. And they worship this thing that is called the Quark Singularity Doomsday Theory, which basically that equates to they believe that over generations since quarks had first started, that eventually there will be this full thing where either everybody has a quirk and nobody is actually fully human anymore because having a quirk kind of takes away your humanity is kind of where the main villain is heading for it, is that this having a quirk takes away your humanity, takes away something that makes you human. Or if you just heard a very loud, I don't know, speaker system go by. We have someone in our neighborhood that is very loud bass on their vehicle. Also, we just had a football game today because I'm recording this on a Saturday after my mom and I just went and watched the movie like less than 2 hours ago. Yeah. So yeah, the quark singularity doomsday theory is that over the course of the generation since quarks have first materialized or first developed, that eventually it'll just result in like the destruction of humanity because the more quarks, the more powerful, the less human they become. Is basically the theory that this goes to. And there's apparently a whole book that's been written about it. That is basically these people's Bible, their doctrine. I put them on the other end of like the Meta Liberation Army, that is like where Destro and like all of them, the opposite end of that, because with the Meta Liberation Army, it is they want to have people free to be able to use their quirks, their meta abilities, be able to use them as much as they want without having to worry about hero licenses or without worrying about getting into trouble or anything like that. And that's where they fall. Human Rise is basically on the exact opposite end of that. They just want everyone that has a quirk to be gone. They think that everyone that has a quirk is unclean, impure, infected, sick, has an illness. And that's kind of very similar to the way that Overhaul was. Of course, we know Overhaul. He was the main villain of the Hasaikai arc, the 8th Precinct arc. And he, his goal was to use Ares' quirk to make the quirk eraser drug to then erase everybody's quirks. Not kill everyone that had a quirk, but just erase their quirks. Now, Human Rise is being led by a man that is called Fleck Turn. If that's a reference to something I don't know, it sounds like lectern, like a lectern, like you use like when you're doing a speech or something like that, or like a professor uses, but that's the closest thing I could come up with. So if that's a reference to something that I'm not getting, I'm sorry. He is the leader of the group, and his plan is to release these bombs that have this very overly developed version of trigger gas. Now, we've heard of trigger before. Of course, it's been mentioned several times throughout the course of My Hero Vigilantes, several times through there. It makes people's quirks kind of go crazy, and to a degree where they can't really control them unless they've, I guess, had practice using trigger in the past. We've also seen it that there's various versions of trigger. Some of them we've seen in the Vigilante. Some of them are more similar to what Overhaul has used, what he used from making from Ares genetics. But this trigger, we see it used in the beginning of the movie. It is designed to basically make someone's quirk activate just completely and utterly, and so they can't control it, and it basically, the overuse of it kills them or kills other people around them in the process. And we see him activate this bomb, and it releases this gas. The gas is form of the trigger, into the air in this, I don't remember if we ever get an exact city that it is, but there's this city, and it just releases all of this gas throughout the entire city, and it makes everybody's quirks go crazy. We see one guy go from just looking like a normal human all the way down into a turtle. I'm assuming that means that his quirk was either just turtle, that like either he could just turn into a turtle or something. We see another guy whose quirk, his arms literally turn into wings, but they're like huge and they just just suck all the life out of him. We see other people that like melt. We see like a hero's quirk goes crazy and it's like lasers. So it's like we see everybody's quirk just going crazy and they can't control it, and it causes a huge amount of destruction in the process. And we see one person that seems to have survived, and it's like, oh, this is someone who is quirkless, because this trigger only affects people who have quirks, obviously, which means it would technically be useless against Izuku and All Might, because technically they are both biologically quirkless. Don't know if, like, since Izuku does technically have quirks because of, All for One, or for One for All, if he technically would still be able to be affected by the drug because he technically has quirks, and if they would just kind of go crazy, or if he would be unaffected by it. We don't ever get to see that because, spoiler alert, Deku doesn't get exposed to any of it in the movie, and neither does All Might. But the person, if you're saved, the quirkless population is worth saving. And, so there's these disciples of Humorize, some of which have quirks, most of which don't. The ones that do have quirks have basically, in my opinion, or from what I deduce, basically been kind of probably brainwashed. Either they were found when they were very young and they were brainwashed into Humorize, or like they were just found at like very low points in their lives, kind of the way that exactly kind of like what Overhaul did to the people that worked for him at the 8th Precinct. In that setup, where he, found people that were at their lowest, and then he like gave them a new identity, gave them a new purpose, which overall is not a bad thing. But the way that these two do it, the way that Overhaul did it, and the way that Fleckturn does, makes them basically into living weapons that basically are willing to die for their cause, or kill for their cause, or both. And if they're a member of the group that has a quirk, they're like, oh, well, you can, yes, you're like an inherent sinner by having a quirk, but if you use your quirk to help, bring about this new era, then you will be forgiven and you will be able to live among those who are, normal humans. And so we see that's basically the opening of the movie. And then of course we get like the nice fun opening sequence where we see like all the different students and everything, like them getting stronger and better, of course. And then we get we see Izuku and the others are getting ready to basically be dropped out of this like bomber jet or so, that are like him and Todoroki and him and Shoto and Bakugo and the rest of the Endeavor agency. Endeavor's there, and Burning is there, and like some of the other sidekicks that we've seen are there, and their job is to get into this building and find Fleckturn and stop him and find this bomb. And it's happening at the same time that all over the world, at all these different places where Humorize have all of their different bases, which, okay, I get that it's not necessarily the easiest thing to always track, always able to track terrorist organizations, obviously very much so in this world. It's not always the easiest thing to be able to do. But if you know exactly where every single one of these bases are, and you know that they're being run by Humorize, why did you not, try to stop them beforehand if you know that they worship this Quark's doomsday theory type thing? You'd think that would be like a good, maybe we should keep a better eye on them, you'd think. I know there's this whole, I know that kind of goes in the butts into the concept of like, oh, religious freedom, but it's just like, their freedom involves wanting to kill everybody else. I don't necessarily think that's the best idea in the world. But there's one guy that we see running away from Humorize, who's trying to escape, and he's going to be hunted down throughout the course of the movie. But like all of the, all the students are part of these different attacks. We see Suyu and Asui, or Suyu and Machako in a different area. I think they're in Paris. We see like Tokugami in like America with several of the other students. We see, some of them are like in Egypt, some of them are like in somewhere else in the UK. And we get to see a bunch of these different global world heroes too. Like we see one that is a big red dot. I think I got his name right. He's one of the other big world heroes. And then there's Salam, who his quirk is just like papyrus. He can make himself paper thin, and I'm just like, I get that has its uses, but why does that make you the top hero in Egypt? Type thing. We unfortunately do not get to see Star and Stripe, or Star and Stripes, or Stars and Stripe, whatever her setup is, wherever that S lands. For her, we unfortunately do not get to see her. Saved her debut for the manga. We didn't get to see her, unfortunately. But we, because unfortunately, it would have been nice to get to see her, have some actual images of her that are, not that the manga images recently haven't been amazing of her, but we didn't get to see her. We got to see some, the other ones have been kind of like got like tiny little glimpses in the manga recently. Big Red Dot and Salam did. But Izuku and the other, Shoto and Bakugo are all part of this group, and they're all very much working together. And we do basically get like a timestamp of when this is taking place in the series. It is set to be taking place during the time frame when the students are doing their internships with their different hero agencies, obviously because they're there with Endeavor, and the others are with the different either agencies or groups that they were doing their internships with. The only ones that we do not see, I believe, are Ida, Ashido, Hagakure, Anima, Koda, and Aoyama. I think those are the only 5 that we don't actually see from Class 1A. Well, we see them on like they're watching the news at various points, or like at the end of the movie we see them, but they're not off, fighting with one of these other World Hero Organization type things. And they're not part of this mission, or at least not as far as I can tell. We see Sun Eater, and we see a couple of ones from Class 1B there as well. Like we see Lizardy, and we see Real Steel, and we see Ibarra, and a couple of the other ones from Class 1B as well. We do see, as I said, we see Sun Eater, and we do see Nejire from Class 3A. We see Mirio, but he's just like kind of in the background. He's not there on an actual, he's not actually there fighting, of course, because canonically at this point in time he is still technically quirkless. We don't see Eri, unfortunately, but that would have been fun to get to see Eri in the background, just like yay Deku at some point in time. But we don't see her. But they're part of this whole setup to try to go after these villains, and unfortunately the raid that they're on kind of fails. They don't find any of the bombs, and they don't find Fleckturn, so then they kind of have to go into a standby while they're trying to figure out how to trace the trigger bombs. We are then introduced to this other new character that is this kind of street urchin, basically, named Rody Soul. And we see him, and we see his 2 younger siblings. He basically takes care of them. He takes sketchy jobs in order to get money to take care of his younger brother and sister. And he seems to be probably maybe around the same age as like Izuku or the rest of Class 1A, or maybe a tiny bit older. I don't remember. I don't remember finding an exact age on him. But like so he does like sketchy jobs to get money to be able to take care of his brother and sister, which good intentions, probably not the best execution concept again. And he always has this little pink bird with him, which is adorable. The pink bird is named Pino, and Pino is his quirk. His quirk basically manifests his soul as Pino, and then he describes it at one point like, it kind of makes it that I can't lie, because Pino, regardless of whatever I am actually physically saying to someone, or whatever kind of like bravado I'm trying to put on, Pino will like literally give away whatever I'm actually thinking. Like, oh, if I'm like pretending that like, oh, everything's cool, if like Pino's freaking out in the background, it's just like, your bird's freaking out. Whether or not everybody knows that that's the way that his quirk works or not is left up for debate, but he tells Izuku this at some point in time. but he's supposed to help like with this jewelry robbery. And well, Izuku and Bakugo and Shoto are off like getting groceries at one point in time. Well, they're all on standby because they're the youngest ones on the crew right now. They're the low man on the totem pole. They have to go get groceries and do errands and everything like that, which is kind of funny. And they're like going back and like, you know, Bakugo's like, why do I have to keep dirt? Why do I have to run errands? Is like what Bakugo's yelling about. And like they end up seeing the jewelry store robbery and like, you know, so they start chasing after them and everything. And you know, they're not in Japan. They're in a place that's called Otheon, which is just a different country. I don't remember exactly if we get an exact map of where it is in the world off the top of my head. Um, but Izuku then starts, you know, all three of them chase the robbers, and then like Rhodey gets pulled into it because he gets like the suitcase that has all the jewels tossed to him, and he's running off, and then Izuku follows him. And then at one point in time, when you know during this whole time frame, there's also this car chase going on because the guy who ran away from Humorize with like a whole bunch of information from them is trying to escape, and he, you know, his car gets attacked by one of the villains that works for Humorize, which her name is uh, Burros. Her quirk basically is she can turn her hand into like a bow and arrow, which is actually a pretty cool quirk. In all honesty, I will admit that. It's compared to a Lady Nagant's, where they can turn part of her body into a weapon, because like Lady Nagant can turn like her arm into like a sniper rifle, and then like use like her own hair to make like the bullets or something. Boreas appears to be she can like put her fingers like this, and then it forms into like a long bow, and then she can, you know, use it as like a bow and arrow, and she, you know, has arrows that she can fire that probably are like some form of like specially designed arrows for her to use. And she ends up, you know, attacking the car that has this one scientist guy in it who's running to run away from Humorize. And you know the car crashes, and via, you know, plot development, the suitcase that he was trying to run away with ends up getting switched with the suitcase that Rhodey had. Rhodey grabs it, keeps running. Izuku keeps chasing him. And Izuku kind of corners him in the subway. And then at one point, you know, and like Rhodey kind of tries to like trick Izuku, like, oh, well, you're not even a hero from this actual country. So do you even have legally, do you even legally have the right to, you know, try to arrest me or try to withhold me or something like that. And, you know, Izuku is just like, fine, just show me what's in the briefcase, and I'll, you know, and we'll be on our, you know, just show me what's in the briefcase, and, you know, if it's actually yours, then I'll let you on your way, type of thing. And they end up like, you know, struggling with the briefcase, which is just kind of funny, which is like some of the shots that ended up in the trailer, of course, with like them fighting over the briefcase. I will point this out for the movie. At least they didn't have like there's this miracle child in the movie. I mean, the first one didn't have like a miracle child in it either. It had Melissa, which is fine, and then this one has Rhodey. The second one had like the two younger kids were like, you know, one of them had like the healing quirk that could, you know, help Izuku and Bakugo get better and everything, which is why they could let Izuku and Bakugo get so beaten up in that one, which is fine. Which, given the time frame when these two would have been taking place, it would have been within like a couple of months of each other, if that. Given like where in the series both of them would be taking place. But you know, the suitcase gets knocked open, and it's just like business papers, and Izuku like apologizes, and then Rhodey's trying to escape again, and he realizes that, oh my god, this is not the right briefcase. And then Izuku tries to help him. He's like, you know, Rhodey starts getting all very nervous and everything. Izuku thinks he's sick, and he's just like, well, I'm here, it's my job to help you, what can I help you with? And then they're outside, and then like a whole bunch of the police officers from the police department in Otheon arrive, and they start shooting at Izuku. And then Izuku grabs Rhodey, and they have to run. And, like, you know, they have to escape, and they, you know, end up, you know, getting chased around. And, like, back at the agency where, like, Shoto is and where Bakugo is and, like, all around the world, they're getting this message of, Izuku Midoriya is wanted for mass murder of 12 people. What? It's like, everyone that knows Izuku is just like, there's no way. Izuku would never do that. Like, all of his classmates all over, like, when they're all hearing the news about this, it's like, no. Deku would never do that. And, like, they're all like, no, Deku would never do that. Like, even Minetta's like, no. Like, all of them are just like, no. Deku would not do that. We know Deku. He would never, ever do that. And And they're all very vehemently, like, trying to tell their supervisors that Deku would never do that. It's like, we know that. We know that Deku wouldn't do that, type of thing. And even All Might, who's like at like the headquarters of like the World Hero Organization or the World Hero Group, whatever it's called, is like there, and it's just like, why is Izuku wanted? He killed 12 people. What? um. And okay, so I just had this flash into my head of the first Avengers movie, where they're all getting explained. Thor is getting explained to him like everything that Loki's done, and he's like, he's my brother, and he, is those, blah 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 blah. And then Natasha goes, he's killed 80 people in 2 days. He's adopted. And then with like this, it's like All Might is like, oh my god, what did Izuku do? He killed 12 people according to this news report. No, he didn't. Is basically the exact answer. No, he didn't. And it's revealed that the chief of police of Otheon is actually a supporter of Human Rise and everything, and he's like trying to get Izuku in because they need the information that's in the briefcase, because there's something in the briefcase that can stop them. And Izuku and Rhodey kind of end up having to go on the run. We get this great scene of they're being chased on this bridge. That kind of looks very similar to the Golden Gate Bridge, but it's not. In the trailers, I initially thought that it was the Golden Gate Bridge, which, hey, place I've been to. But it's not actually the Golden Gate Bridge. It just kind of looks like it. But like Izuku is using Black Whip and just like jumping all over the place, swinging around and like holding on to Rhodey. And Rhodey's just like looking at his face all the time. I was like, what the heck is going on? Is he's just like getting like thrown around and bounced around and everything. And then like Izuku and him kind of end up basically having to go on the lam. And, he like, he calls Shoto, and Shoto explains it was like, well, you're wanted for murder, and it's just like, I didn't do it. I know you didn't do it, type thing. And it's just like they get sent out, and like there's these other heroes that are working with them. There's one hero that's working with Endeavor's group. Her name is called Clairvoyance, and her quirk is just Voyance, which I think I don't remember exactly the definition. It was like either she can't see the future, but I think she can like see through things, because like she can search like through the base to see if she can find, like when they're trying to get into the first Human Rise base, she can like search through the base to like determine where the bomb is, or try to figure out where certain things are. She seems pretty interesting. I don't remember if we get an exact. I don't remember if she's just like an Otheon hero herself, or if she's just like a member of the World Hero Organization that just happened to get paired up with Endeavor's group. But one of the things that ends up happening is, Izuku and Rhodey have to kind of like go and, go on the lam and hide. And, Shoto's like, he gets like one last communicate with Izuku, and he's just like, remember, turn off your phone and take out the phone battery so they can't track you with the GPS. Yeah. And like, Izuku's doing that and everything. And like Rhodey kind of, I'm assuming like Izuku has money on him. Because like Rhodey and him like end up buying a bunch of clothes for them to like wear and hide, and like backpacks to put some stuff in, so that way they have gear with them and everything. And they're like working on trying to get across. They want to cross the border from Otheon into Clade, I think was the name of the other country. Again, I don't know if these are actual real countries or not. I could just not know that. I don't know. They're trying to get into Clade, and he ends up sending a message to Shoto at one point, and then taking his battery out of the phone again so they can't track him. That's basically, it's like a whole thing of like, I'm gonna be gone for a while. Like it's code basically, but it's like something that it's like, don't forget to eat the dinner in the fridge, and remember to keep eating your strawberries type thing, or whatever the heck concept it was that he made up for the thing to then send it to Shoto. And he's like, I think it's code. Is he telling me what to eat? And it's just like, they're going to Clade. And like he gets that information, and then like Bakugo is like getting ready to walk into the room, and Shoto just grabs him and walks by him and just like grabs him by the arm. It's like, you're coming with me. Bakugo, what? Bakugo's answer, what the heck? I don't listen. I don't have to listen to you. Don't tell me what to do. Bakugo shouts it like 6 times, I think, throughout the course of the movie. Which we see the 3 of them, they're the big 3 of Class 1A, obviously. We see Shoto and Izuku and Bakugo. We see their friendship is very much improved, although canonically wise, this is before Bakugo has full on apologized to Izuku for everything. This is before that happens in the story. but clearly things have, they're still, the three of them still work together fairly, seamlessly as a very good team and everything like that. And Endeavor, Endeavor's like, okay, Endeavor tries to get like the chief of police to tell him why they think Izuku is the one that committed this mass murder, or like where's the evidence or everything like that. And the chief of police is like, well, I can't do that because like you're his supervisor and like you're his fellow countryman and you might be on his side. The police officer, as I said, is a member of Humarise. And Zuko and Rhodey kind of are on the run, and then like they end up spending the night in this abandoned farmhouse type thing. And Rhodey is trying to convince Izuku to just like, why don't we just give them back the suitcase and then they'll stop chasing us? If we give them the suitcase and they're just gonna have this thing that'll help them be able to, hurt other people. We might incidentally help the bad guys. And we can't do that. And like, Izuku falls asleep, and then, Rhodey takes the briefcase and he calls the police from like a payphone, and he's, calls whoever the bad guys are from the payphone and is gonna be like, just I give you this and you leave us alone. And Boreas and some other guy are the ones that show up, and the other guy just looks like a weird Oni ogre type thing, just like, I don't know. He's just there. I don't know exactly what to say about him, but they show up and they attack Rhodey, and Izuku shows up and protects Rhodey because he wakes up. Well, Pino shows up and like wakes Izuku up, and then like Izuku goes and he grabs Rhodey, and he ends up getting hit by one of Boris' arrows in the side to protect Rhodey, and then they end up going on this on the run again, and Rhodey has to like bandage Izuku up and everything, and Rhodey and Izuku kind of have this heart to heart, and he's very worried about leaving his siblings because he's the only one that's there to take care for his siblings. We get this flashback for Rhodey where we get kind of his, his backstory is, him and his brother and his sister, they had a very good father and they had a nice life and everything like that. It seemed very good, and they were, had friends and everything. And then like their father just like up and vanished. And there's like all the rumors going. I was like, oh, he went and he joined that group Humarise, and we don't be friends with those children anymore. And they're basically like kicked out. They don't have a home because like Rhodey says later, well, my mother died just after she gave birth to my sister, and so but like our dad did the best to raise us at the time and everything, and then he just kind of left. And it's been me taking care of them for the last however many years. I don't remember if we get an exact time frame for how long that's been, but it's at least been a couple of years since then. And he, him and Izuku kind of have this heart-to-heart conversation where Izuku ends up telling him, the reason I want to be a hero because I want to be I want to save people with a smile on my face. And then Rhodey, of course, ends up doing this whole thing of like, heroes aren't where I live. There's no heroes in like the ghetto area where I live because they wouldn't get paid enough to be there because we're, yeah, there's villains, but we just have to, fend for ourselves type of thing, and like we see this flashback of like him getting beaten up at one point in time, and it's like, so you get it from both sides. It's Izuku. We know Izuku's story. We know how he's wanted to be a hero his entire life, how he's worked so hard to be able to get to even where he is in the movie with with One for All, and with with all the rest with the quirks and everything. We see him learning how to be able to use Black Whip and everything, and very good with his quirks at that point in time. We see we've seen his story. With Rhodey, we kind of have to get it, not like shoved down our throats, but it's like, okay, dad's gone, mom's dead, was abandoned, or appeared to be abandoned. Kind of get a cliff note on that later. But, he has to take care of his siblings. So it's like, his goal is to just make sure that him and his siblings have food to eat. They have food and they have a place to sleep. And they have like this little trailer that they live in, like in a trailer park. And so that's why he does these odd, sketchy jobs, because it gets him money to be able to, feed his brother and sister. And so, like, yeah, his brother's really smart and his sister is so sweet. And he has, like, this locket, of course, that, like, his dad had given, like, this puzzle thing at one point in time. And, like, he had to solve the puzzle thing. And then, the locket was in there, and he has the locket that's, for him, that has him and his brother and sister, their picture in it and everything. Um, and that he keeps with him at all times. And, him and Izuku, at some point in time, Izuku, Pino Rody tells Izuku what his quirk is, which is that it's Pino. And at this point in time, Shoto and Bakugo are making their way to the border so they can try to help save, Izuku. And like they're doing the whole, Bakugo gets the explanation, and so the briefcases got switched. That's what we're thinking. So we have to go find Deku. Yeah, we have to go find him. Okay, fine. But you can't tell me what to do, basically thing. And it's just like, just admit it, he's your friend. Uh and so we see that, and then Rhodey and Zuko basically have like this. We get this travel montage, which is just kind of funny. It's just like, oh, they have to like use this quirk to like get this truck that Rhodey technically stole, left an IOU. Get that, use that, and move the truck around and everything. And like Izuku's face is all over the place, so it's like Rhodey's the one that has to interact with people all the time. Why they didn't put Rhodey's picture up there all the as well as Izuku's, I don't know, but they do that. And, so Rhodey's the one that basically deals with everyone. And then, like, Izuku is wearing, like, a hat to, like, hide his hair and everything. Because that green hair is very, 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 obvious. And very, very, memorable, whatever. And, they get to the border, and, like, there's this train that they're trying to get on. And they because there's so many, police officers searching everyone before they get on the train, they're like, well, and there's like this, cliffside thing. And I was like, well, if we climb over the cliff and everything, then we can climb onto the other side and get into the other country. Okay, so, Zuko's still kind of hurt from getting hit by the arrow a little while ago. I think it's probably been at least a couple of days at this point in time. I don't remember if we get an exact answer for like how many days it's been. And what ends up happening is basically Rhodey and Izuku get attacked by Boreas and one of the other members of Humorize that has a quirk that allows him to. It looks like he can make like ball bearings like get really, really big, I think is what it appeared to be. I don't know exactly what that equates to for his quirk. But also, it's like Izuku and Rhodey are just about, they're basically like literally on the cliff's edge, and then Shoto and Bakugo show up and like they save them, and, they get the briefcase, and the airplane the helicopter that Boreas had been in, basically was going to crash. And because she's basically been brainwashed, she literally just like jumps out of the plane and basically just like falls and commits suicide. Because she's had that drilled into her. It's like, how about no? I don't know what to say with that. But like, so she gets, she's gone, and then like Izuku and the Rhodey and Bakugo and Shoto will have to, they see that part of the briefcase has kind of become broken, that there's something inside of it, like a hidden compartment. And they dig out the hidden compartment, and inside is the same little puzzle that Rhodey's father had him solve one point when he was a kid. And he takes it and he solves it. And inside are, a file that has, like a microchip, and then like another, interesting looking key card looking type thing. And they get over into Clade, whatever the other kingdom, whatever the other country is. They get in there and they get, I'm assuming they go to like a library or something, and like they check over the information, and like Bakugo's like, well, just look for the most recent updated file type of thing. And it's just like, do you just watch like a lot of crime scene documentaries when you're, working out or something like that? Is that like your hobby, Bakugo, like crime solving documentaries? Because he's like, I know exactly what to do with this. And they find like an audio file. It's just like, my name is Alan Kay, and he's the one that was in the car trying to leave Humorize. Myself and a group of other scientists were forced to work for Humorize to create these trigger bombs. And one of my, another one of the scientists, Eddie Stoll, Rhodey's father, created this device that would stop the bombs from going off, and he died, in the process of creating it. Gave his life to create it and everything, and like I managed to escape, and you need to get it into this certain area or whatever. And then like Bakugo's like, And I was like, well, where do we put it? And I was just like, Bakugo was like, well, it's stupid to give us a key without telling us where the lock is. So he just like digs more and finds whatever the information is because it's just like Bakugo Ex Machina. Um, and like they figure out like, okay, so it's at this specific base. And like literally like at this same time frame when they're figuring this out, Humorize has made this like giant proclamation to the world, that there are like so many like other bombs all around the world and all of these different strategic places where the heroes happen to be because they knew that the heroes would attack where all of their bases were, so they would be congregated in the same spot. So then they would be able to then activate the bombs and then wipe out a ton of the heroes all at the same time, which, okay, I'll hand it to him. Admittedly, that's a rather good plan. That is actually a rather good plan because it's either the heroes have like two options in this case, and like Izuku even points that out. It's like, well, if we warn all the heroes and everything, and if even if they have the ability to leave, they won't because there's still all these innocent civilians in these cities where the bombs are going to go off and they have to do their best to get all the citizens to safety, and that's their job, and they have to try to find the bombs. So it's either A, the heroes find the bombs and either get so much of the civilians evacuated so that way if the trigger does go off, it's only going to kill the heroes, or only going to kill the heroes and hopefully a very small amount of the civilians, if any, or if like the heroes just abandon everyone for their own to save their own skins, then the heroes just look like they abandoned their post, and like then whatever amount of humanity is still left after these quirk trigger bombs go off, then the heroes just look like they did nothing and like they just like were only in it to protect themselves, which that's basically the choice that Humorize is giving them. It's like you can try to find the bombs and you can try to evacuate the civilians and possibly die in the process, probably die in the process, or you can run. That type of a thing. And he's, he like tells them, I was like, well, they're in each one of these cities, but I'm not going to tell you exactly where they are. And like Rhodey and the other, Zuko and the others have, figured out that, okay, well, this other base is where they have to be, is where the main computer is. And that's where Fleckturn is. So then they have to, Rhodey is basically like, get me a plane and I can fly us there. Because they have like 2 hours until the bombs go off. And like they end up stealing a plane. And they because Rhodey knows how to fly a plane, because I'm assuming he had like a large amount of interest in that when he was a kid, and he has like a basic idea of how to fly a plane. So they steal a plane and they fly the plane to wherever the main base is, and the three heroes, they've sent like a message to Endeavor and to the the World Hero Organization, that oh, we found this information, this is what's going on, this is where it is, this is what we're going to try to do, we have this key, we have to get it in there, this is what everything is going on. And like they send that information, and then like we see as it gets like spread all over the world, like All Might here, it goes to the headquarters where All Might is, so like, and then it gets spread to like Endeavor, and to where Sue and Ochaku are, and where like all the others are. It's like it's like, well, we can't just abandon everyone here. And we see all the kids, all the kids and all the rest of the heroes and everything, of course, fighting against, because all of the bombs are protected by different members of Humorize, some that have quirks, some that don't, and are all basically prepared to die for their cause. So it's like, if your quirk goes out of the way because of the bomb, then you're going to die anyway. And so it's like they're having to deal with all this, and they're working on evacuating the civilians and getting them to safety. And we get to see like all the other all these different heroes from all over the place, which is actually kind of fun, doing their thing. And like we see like Salam, who's the one in Egypt that can go paper, and like I think it's Denki, Sero, and Mineta that are there. And like I think we see like maybe someone else that's there too, like the whoever it is that they're currently interning with. It's just, I think it's Mount Lady and Kamui Woods, Kamui Woods and Edgeshot, I think, are the ones that are there. But like we see Salam, like he's like he goes like paper thin, and he just appears to be like paper thin like the entire time, because like everybody else kind of looks like they have depth to him. He just looks flat. Which is funny. He's just like flat, and he's just like zipping all over the place, which is just kind of funny. And like, we see all of the other students are there, and like they're with the groups that they were like interning with. So like, as I mentioned in like the different internship videos, Momo and Lizardy are currently with Majestic, so we get to see some of his quirk going on. And Momo like makes a whole bunch of these different like sensor things with her quirk, and then she has like Lizardy breaks herself apart and like delivers all of them to like the people. And like we see Gang Orca and like all of his sidekicks, his like group and everything. And like that is where Jiro and Shoji are, and they're using their information gathering ability. Shoji with his eyes and his ears, and Koyoko with her her earphone jacks, and like Gang Orca is like using his sonar to try to figure out where all of the bombs are. And like they're passing along the information that Izuku is alive, and Bakugo and Shoto and stuff, and like they found the information and they're gonna do all of this. And like we see all of them running around, and it's actually kind of fun because like it shows them all working in tandem with each other and like all around the world. And it's like we see via monitors inside of where Fleckturn is, inside of this other base, that he's monitoring all of this because that's his job. And Izuku and Shoto and Bakugo, they dive bomb out of the airplane again, and they're getting ready to go, get their way into the base. And like Bakugo like handles all the people at the front of the base, and he ends up having to fight these like twins that are like serpenters or something like that, where their arms can turn into, they're like whips, but they have spikes on them. I don't know exactly how to describe them, but like they can use them. The two of them work very well together. I'll give them that. They're these these twins that are trying to deal with Bakugo, and then Shoto has to fight against this kind of agent that is very giant that is known as Leviathan, which I don't remember exactly what his quirk was, but he appeared, I think it looked like maybe something that has to do with his blood, maybe, or something, but he was like also able to like manipulate water by like mixing his quirk with the water so he could manipulate that. So we get these awesome battles, of course, for Shoto and Bakugo, of course. And Bakugo kind of Bakugo takes a lot of damage throughout this. He even gets like stabbed through the stomach, I think, at one point in time. I'm like, that happened. I'm like, okay, so now he's been stabbed through the stomach twice. Because of course during part of the Metal Liberation Army or the Paranormal Liberation Army fight, we see him get stabbed through the stomach at one point in time by Shigaraki. I think it was Shigaraki, yeah. But like, so we see all of that, but and then like Shoto is having to deal with Leviathan, and he keeps using his ice and his fire, and his flash, freeze, fire, everything. Like Nezuko's made his way into the base, and he's running his way to where Fleckturn is. And then we get the answer to why Fleckturn is doing this, and we find out that Fleckturn's quirk is called Reflect. And Fleckturn, whatever. His quirk is called Reflect, and it basically forces him to reflect anyone or anything that comes into contact with him. Now, he's wearing clothes, and he has this very elaborate kind of like mirror-based costume type thing that he uses, which admittedly, I will give the man this. Very good use of his costume. Very good use of the way that he uses his costume to manipulate, because there's also like lasers in the room where like him and Izuku are fighting, so he can like use the lasers to like reflect off of the reflective pieces that are on his costume and focus them at Izuku, which he uses to hit Izuku multiple times throughout the course of the battle. And Izuku, with the amount of blood that Izuku seems to lose in this battle, he should not have gotten back up as many times as he did. But I get that it's like you're on adrenaline and everything like that, and I'm like, I get that, but still. And it's still like, okay, that's a lot of blood that he loses. But his Fleckturn's quirk is that it reflects anything back from him. And so like Izuku hits him multiple times with a couple of different smashes that just get reflected back at Izuku and like send Izuku flying. Even like the air flicks do it and everything. So he keeps getting his attacks reflected back at him. And Fleckturn explains that from the moment that like his quirk developed, his parents didn't, ever want to hug him or give him affection anymore because it just got like that force got bounced back at them, all this other stuff, colleagues, friends, potential girlfriends or whatever. all of it just left him alone. And it's basically the whole thing of you're blaming your quirk for the fact that you didn't even seem to try to learn how to control your quirk to turn it off. And therefore, you went down this rabbit hole of the quirk doomsday theory that, like, oh, I'm going to save everyone from having to deal with this because, like, even with like so many of the quirk, there's still like 20% of the population is quirkless, but how many of them are going to have children with someone who has a quirk, and therefore that child could have a quirk, and then that's less part of the population that doesn't have a quirk. And so we get that. So it's like we do kind of get his backstory, which is different than like what we get with the Psyche with Overhaul, because Overhaul is he was taken in by the mafia and everything when he was a child, by the Yakuza, and raised and kind of given a purpose, and then he kind of just like started to look at quirks as like a disease. But instead of like Fleckturn, where he just wants to kill everyone that has a quirk that's not on his side, that he can't basically manipulate them into doing what he wants. Overhaul wanted to, just erase everybody's quirks by using the erasure drug. And probably finding, because he tried to capture Izawa as well, he probably wanted to try to use that. Izawa's quirk as well, try to, manipulate that to being able to just like erase everybody's quirks anyway. On like a more massive scale. So it's like Fleckturn just wants to kill everyone that has a quirk that's not on his side. Overhaul wanted to just like erase everybody's quirks, not kill all of them. Yeah, in his opinion, probably some of them would have died in the process, but he doesn't want to just kill all of humanity. They both look at quirks as a disease, but their methods of trying to get rid of them are quite different. And at this point in time, Brody has also like he like crashed the plane, and he like gets out and he's trying to get into the base because he wants to help, and he gets gets found, intercepted by some of the apostles, disciples, whatever, of Humorize, and they're just like, oh, you're Rhodey's soul. If you give us back the key that you and these other heroes want to use to try to stop us, then we will not have the bomb detonate in Otheon, because there is a bomb that is set to go off in Otheon where his brother and sister are. I don't think we ever get an answer as to like either if his brother and sister have a quirk or even what those quirks are. The sister might be on the young enough side that she may not have developed one yet, or it's just like they have them, it's just they're not prevalent to the movie, so there's no point in us knowing what their quirks are. But even if you are quirkless, someone else's quirk near you going crazy could still cause you a lot of damage and still kill you in the process. And of course, Rhodey even says, it's like, if I have to choose between all of society and protecting my brother and sister, I will protect them. And at this point in time, he's also learned that his father had joined Humorize to protect him, that he was forced to join Humorize, and that's why he had to pretend like he had abandoned them. He knew that Humorize was going to take him, and that's why he like pretended to abandon Rhodey and his brother and sister. So that way Humorize wouldn't go after them, because, as Alan Kay had said in the message, it's like, they were going to, kill our families if we didn't work for them. They forced us to work for them. So, that's why he abandoned them, to kind of protect them. And his father Eddie Soul has died, and died at some point during his process of trying to get this information away from Humorize and into the hands of the heroes, and now it's into the hands of the heroes. And what ends up happening is Rhodey has made his way into where Izuku is fighting against Fleckturn, and Rhodey appears to take the key from Izuku, and he's walking it over to Fleckturn, and he's like doing this whole thing of like it's like, it's just easier this way. It'll protect my brother and sister and everything. And he's, handing it, getting ready to hand it to Fleckturn. And Izuku is like looking up and like he's trying to, convince Rhodey not to do this. And he looks up and he sees Pino in like the hood of Rhodey's coat. And Pino is just like shaking its head like, like counting down to like tell Izuku like 3, 2, 1, now. And then like, Rhodey throws the key up into the air, and like Pino's supposed to grab it, and like he ducks, and like Izuku attacks Fleckturn at that point in time. and like knocks Fleckturn out of the way. And he's, his attack still gets reflected back on him, and his attack still gets reflected back on him, but in this case, it was just trying to get Fleckturn out of the way so that way Rhodey could grab the key and then head down into the area where the computer is, where like the home computer is, and or the motherboard is, or whatever you want to call it. And he's making his way down there, and unfortunately, he got hit with like one of the lasers at some point in time during the time when he was trying to head down there. He got hit with one of the lasers, so he's bleeding really badly, and like we see him as he's walking down these exceedingly long steps. Like we see the blood smeared on the wall. It's just like, that's a lot of blood again. Like, that's a lot of blood, people. And like, he's making his way down there, and like we see Pino in his hand, and like Pino's kind of like fading in and out because Pino is, set to be, Pino is a representation of his soul. So, it's like if his soul kind of goes away, then he kind of goes away. So that's bad. But like, Izuku is still fighting against Fleckturn, and he, Fleckturn's, reflection kind of starts to basically crack. And Izuku realizes that, oh, it can only reflect up to a certain limit. So that's when he starts going, plus ultra. He, uses, he basically takes off all of his, handicaps and everything. It's just like, I have to do this. And he goes, one for all, full cowling, 100%. Was it just like United States of world smash, whatever, big over the top attack type thing that we've seen him, we kind of saw like him and Bakugo do in the second movie, and kind of saw, him and All Might pull off, and he's, kind of got like the over the top green coloring that he uses, or that he kind of goes into that when he had Eri on his back during the time frame when he was fighting Overhaul. So it's kind of another reference to that, I would take it. But he's, going up against, sending all of these attacks and everything, big over the top attacks at, Fleckturn. And while this same attack is going on, it's like the countdown is like, it's less than like, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute type of thing. And like Rhodey has made his way down into the control room, and there's nobody else in there. He gets down there, and he's like so close, but he like falls on the ground, and like we see Pino kind of like fall on the ground too, and like Pino looks like it's like fading a little bit, which is just like, no, don't take the bird. But like outside of the fort, we see Bakugo basically ends up, Bakugo does get hurt quite a bit through this as well, because the twins, the Serpentin's twins or whatever, have used like trigger on themselves at one point in the battle, so now their power is even upped even more. And Izuku, or Bakugo ends up, does end up defeating them, but it takes him like going, his basic full power type of thing, and making like a big giant explosion fire tornado because reasons. And Shoto ends up, using his quirk, to like, him and Leviathan were like fighting in the water, and there was a waterfall, and like he, froze a ton of the water in the waterfall to like trap around Leviathan, and then like did like a fire punch type of thing, which would have made Ace and or Sabo and Luffy from One Piece quite happy with that punch, I would assume, and everything. So again, we kind of see like this leaps and bounds thing that like Shoto has come with, like using his fire from the beginning. In the beginning of the story and everything, like he defeated Leviathan, and like he's kind of down for the count, and Bakugo's down for the count, and like Izuku has finished his full force United States of Smash World whatever on Fleckturn, and like he's been blue the entire time, and now it's like he's no longer blue, he's like human coloring, he's normal skin color, and he's like down for the count. And Izuku is like dashing down the stairway to get to where Rhodey is, and he sees Rhodey on the ground, and like it's like everybody all around the heroes, like they had all managed to find a bunch of the bombs, and like Hawks in America is like using his fierce wings to lift the bomb up to try to get it away from everyone, and like Endeavor is ready to basically like rocket the bomb as far into space as he can go, and like Cementos had like completely like encased one of the bombs and like cement wherever he was, and Araka is like getting ready to like float one of the bombs up so that way they can get it out of the atmosphere or whatever. Probably don't want to put it into the atmosphere, but at least get it to the point where you can like contain it or something, because like if it goes in the atmosphere, trigger release into the atmosphere is not going to be good. That's going to just like spread very badly. But so it's like we see all of them like, but it's like, oh, but there's another bomb and there's another bomb. So it's just like they're all just like running all over the place, and like it's like all of them are like fighting to the nth degree. And like we had seen like video footage of like all of them like while Izuku was fighting Fleck Turn, and he's just like, I can't give up because my friends aren't going to give up, and I got to keep going, and I got to take this guy down, and all of this other stuff. And so it's like we see we get like monologues from the other students, of course, inside their heads. It's like, I'm not going to give up, I can't give up, they're still fighting, I still got to keep going. you know and I do like that we see that get cut to the different places where the different battles are going on with the different students and the different heroes and everything against the different humorized character, the humorized um lackeys, for lack of a better word. And it's like, we get a Chuck, I'm not giving up because Deku wouldn't give up type of thing, of course. And we go through all of that and everything, and Izuku had managed to knock down Fleck Turn and get him beaten, and he dashes down to the room. Rhodey's like laying on the ground, with his blood, and like Izuku is just like, and he like looks up, and like it pans up, and it's like the countdown timer stopped. Well, the timer ended, and like everybody is just like prepared for the bombs to go off, but they don't. And like it pans up in the server room where like it pans up where like where Rhodey had been. It pans up, and we see Pino had gotten the key into where it needed to go on the computer, on the giant motherboard type thing, gotten the key exactly where it needed to go, and it's just like, eh. And like Brody's like thumbs up too, and like we get Bakugo and not Bakugo, but we get like Izuku and Rhodey like you did it, we saved everyone, we stopped the bombs and like all of that, and like all the people are just like, what happened? Let's just get those bombs contained, and like they get the information, and like we get the whole wrap up of the movie where all the humorized people are arrested and everything, and sent to jail or whatever, and like all the heroes are getting healed and taken to the hospital, and like we see like Izuku and Shoto and Bakugo and Rhodey all taken to the hospital and healed, and we see like Rhodey gets his brother and sister are there and everything, and like Pino better, and all of them are there, and like we see at one point Recovery Girl was like there, like she's like giving Bakugo the kiss on the cheek, and he's just like, oh god, please stop, type thing. Very similar to what happened in at the end of the second My Hero movie, The Heroes Rising. But so it's like we get all that fun little wrap up there. All the other students are all everybody survived, all the students are still alive, and the heroes are still alive and everything, and they're all proud of each other and everything, and the three boys are very much beat up and everything because they went through a lot to get this done. And like so there's all of that, like they're at the airport, they're getting ready to leave, and like Rhodey comes and he says goodbye to Izuku, and he's just like, just like stick to your own country, I don't ever want to see you again. Pino, no, basically like, no, I don't want you to go, please come back, admit to us, type of thing on his like sad bird sad bird noises. And like Deku hugs him, and like they head off, and Izuku and the others head back to their head back to UA, and like we can have the wrap up pictures on the during the end credits to like wrap everything up, and we see all the rest of the class gets back to UA, and the ones that had been staying at UA are like all there, like they're just like so happy to see everyone, like everybody's so happy, and yay, you guys are back, you're okay, Ida, don't ever do anything stupid like that again, just like all these other ones just like so happy and everything, and big party type thing, and and we get cut to like where Rhodey is with his brother and sister, and they're things are getting better for them. He actually ends up getting like more of a real job. There had been like this guy that runs a restaurant or whatever that Rhodey would get like information from to like do different odd jobs, sketchy odd jobs, and now he got to like a legit job, and he gets that, and he's like working his way up and everything like that, and we see him like studying like a pilot's license type of a thing, so he can actually fly because that's what he wants to do. And we see the brother and sister having fun at school, and the three of them happy, and like the last shot of the movie is Like we see them, like all sleeping in like the 1 bedroom thing that they have in their, trailer, and like on the walls are like all these different, pictures and everything. And one of them is like a picture of a very badly drawn picture of Shoto and Izuku and Bakugo. And I'm assuming that was drawn after like the kids came and visited them at the hospital and like saw Izuku, Shoto, and Bakugo, and just like, thank you for helping our brother type thing. And so, I don't think Rhodey's gonna end up popping back up again. I mean, it's not like with Melissa where, oh, Melissa is like the closest thing to a niece that All Might has. So it would make sense for like her and David Shield to like show back up again at some point in time, because like they are canon characters, I think, but they are not like they may not ever be brought back into the series. It would be nice if they were, but I don't know. Although admittedly at one point in the manga, Izuku was like running around wearing like the gauntlet type thing that was very similar to the one that Melissa designed in the first movie. But like, I don't know, maybe we'll see Rhodey again at some point in time. That'd be nice. I don't know, probably not, but that'd be interesting. So that's that's where that ends. There was a manga tie-in to it that was just like a little tie-in that came out like when it premiered in Japan and everything. So just a couple little chapter that had a slight thing of like, oh, the three, Izuku, Shoto, and Bakugo, like, oh, if you three can like land a hit on Endeavor within a certain amount of time, then you guys can come and be in part of this mission type of a thing. So we got that. Written by the chapter was just written by someone else who was part of the movie crew, I think. So we have that. Of course, the general cast of the movie is, Deku is Justin Briner, Bakugo is Clifford Chapin. Shoto is, of course, David Matranga, sorry. Endeavor is Patrick Seitz. Just on down the list is pretty much basically who they are in the actual series, of course. So that's not really any different there. I did like the movie. I liked it quite a bit. I went and saw it with my mom, as I said. And like she's seen the other 2 movies, and she's seen some of the episodes, and she gets the basic idea of the story, and other kids that are training to be heroes and everything. And this is just one of the things that happens in this whole time frame while they're training to be heroes. And I now it's like it was like us and like 2 other people in the theater. So it's like we were up on like one of the higher back rows. And like then like the other people were like down more on the floor by the screen. So it's just like, okay, we're good. And like we couldn't hear them at all, I don't think. And like if we made any noise, or like I made a comment or something like that to my mom, like they wouldn't have heard it. So it was fine. I've been in other movie theaters where it's just like it's so crowded and like you can't hear you hear the person next to you breathe, and it's just like, oh god, I can't hear the movie. But that was very nice. That's not the first movie that I've had that was that. There was like a movie so many years ago that my dad and I went and saw. I don't remember what it was, but like it was just like we were the only 2 in the entire theater, I think. But so yeah, I very much enjoyed the movie. I think this is my favorite out of all the different movie villains we've seen. I would say that Fleckturn might be the kind of the most well-developed one, because like 9 was just like, I just want power, and then the other one was just like someone that was like higher, like Wolf Form or whatever his name was in the first movie, just like, oh, I'm hired, I was hired to do this, so that's what I'm going to do, but I'm a villain anyway, so I'll just do it for myself and get myself stronger. So a little bit on the power side like with 9, but Fleckturn had a little bit more of a, I'd say a little bit more of a depth to him. Whatever. I liked Rhodey. I thought he was nice. Fun little character. Friend for Izuku down the road possibly would be fine. Again, I don't think we're going to end up seeing him again at any point in time in the future, but if we do, we do. If we don't, we don't. I have anything else to go on with that? I've got a bunch of other My Hero movies set up to be, videos coming out. This is just a shirt that I got from one of the random websites that I get shirts from. And whatever. Not really too much else. I bought a One Piece wall scroll today before going to the movie, so I might have a One Piece wall scroll in the background for one of my other One Piece videos at some point in time, because some of them were recorded pre this and some of them will be recorded post this, but yeah, I'll probably bring that up every now and then. So that's what we have. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a nice rest of your day, and I hope you enjoyed the movie, either when you've gone and seen it, and don't watch this first. Or watch this first. I highly doubt you'll end up watching this first before you go and see the movie. Because it's like, go see the movie first, then watch this. I actually tried to make sure that I kind of avoided as many spoilers for the movie as I could. I'm like, I know the kid's roadie. I know there's going to be this big terrorist organization type thing because that's in the trailers, basically. I know they're going to do all this stuff, but it's just like, I tried to avoid some of the spoilers just to make sure that it's like, oh, well, that doesn't, I don't want to know exactly what's going to happen. But yeah, so I thank you very much for watching. Have a nice rest of your day. Bye. Why is he telling me what to eat? If you want to get crazy, I'm right there with you. A hero knows what it means to keep fighting until the end.